Once again, I'm in the car, and sorry, we just got out of church. So this is basically going to be a story time about my daughter's childbirth. My daughter's childbirth. So, with that being said, let me get right to the story. So basically, here's a story about her childbirth. So basically, in my first trimester of being pregnant with Shayla, my daughter, she's 2 now, I actually, had, people just driving in front of me and everything. So in the first trimester of being pregnant with Shayla, I from about 7.5 weeks to about 13.5 weeks, my first trimester, I was spotting for a few days every single week. And so with that being said, I was spotting, and they didn't know where it was coming from, but I had went to the hospital for the first time I started spotting, and they were saying that it could have been, I guess, like something about the placenta trying to lift off the surface and everything. And when I had went to my doctor, the gyno and everything, they didn't know where the bleeding was coming from, had no idea where it was coming from. And so I dealt with that. I wasn't very happy in the beginning. I was actually very, very scared and very scared, and I was happy I was pregnant, but at the same time, because of the fact that I've had a lot of miscarriages, so I wasn't I wasn't ready, but God had a feeling that I was ready because of the fact I also in this video I'll also disclose my miscarriages. I have had 9 miscarriages. They have no idea why I've had 9 miscarriages. My first one was when I was 15. I didn't even know I was pregnant at the time, but I found out later on because I had a miscarriage and the baby came out. And I don't know if anybody has experienced something like that happening, where you've had tissue and stuff come out that has like it had eyes, like the baby had eyes, like little black dots on its eyes, and then it also had I saw little arms on it, and then I saw where the umbilical cord was, and that was my first one. My other miscarriages, I would bleed, so I've had 9. I've had some where, I've taken tests and I'm pregnant and I'll be pregnant for a while, then all of a sudden it'll go right to negative. And so I thought that I had like that disorder where, I forgot what it's called, where you have to get a shot, like where your body can basically basically, it can basically fight. It can basically fight. It can basically fight you on, basically thinking that basically your body is attacking it because it doesn't know it's a baby, so it thinks it's something foreign. So with that, I've had 9, but I've only had 2 times where I've passed tissue. Like my last official miscarriage was in let's see, 2011 August. I think it was 2011. Yeah, 2011 in August. And you know, with that baby, it made me very sad because my period stopped, and I went into the doctors, and when they took a picture, got the picture, I was only like 5.5 weeks, so the baby wasn't even like a baby yet, so it was still like a zygote or whatever, still trying to divide. And then a couple weeks later, I came in, and then it was showing me starting the miscarriage. And I started, I never had a DMC because I didn't want to go through that. So, and I had told the doctor, I'll let my body pass the baby, because my body does that. And, right after that, soon after that, I think the next day or 2, I was bawling my eyes out because I was losing a baby. I was bleeding a lot, and then the tissue came out, and they wanted to do a sample. They wanted me to take it in so they could check why I was having all these miscarriages. And they took it in, and their excuse was the baby was too young, so they couldn't get any information whatsoever from my miscarriage. So with that being said, then no one ever knew what it was, so then I accepted the fact, I was never gonna have kids, I was always gonna be a godparent, and I was always gonna be, never having kids. And so with that being said, I have Shayla. She is 2 years old, a little over 2 now. And so back to my childbirth story. I'm doing 2 stories in one because it makes more sense. So basically, like I was saying, I was spotting until 13.5 weeks. I was throwing up every day, all day, vomiting, nausea, every day, all day for a long time. And then it finally subsided, which was awesome because I don't like having that, sick feeling and wanting to puke and, all that stuff. So then after that, I went into my second trimester, and then I told my parents, and they were very overjoyed because this was their first grandbaby and my husband's second baby. And I actually have a 14-year-old stepdaughter right now, and so he was hoping for a boy, and it came out, it was a girl. He's very, very happy. Hopefully in the future we'll have one more, that's it. Hopefully it's a boy. If it's not, he's okay with that too. That's why I haven't really gotten rid of Shayla's stuff, because I'm like, we still want one more. So basically, I'm gonna fast forward. So I had a lot of abdominal pain, a lot of stretching. I didn't have stretch marks until a few days after, probably a couple weeks maybe a couple months after I gave birth to Shayla, I had three brown stretch marks pop up on my stomach. So on 2 days, let's see, July 1st, we went to the mall, walked the mall for a while, did a couple errands, and I was having a lot of contractions, and my husband was worried because I was having too many contractions and they wouldn't stop. And so he took me to the hospital in Mesa, and I told him, I said, I'm not dilated enough. They're gonna send me home. And they did. We were only there about 30 minutes. They're like, yeah, she's not dilated enough. But previously to this, my last doctor's visit, the lady stripped my membranes, and she said, either way, it will work or it won't work. And so she stripped, so my membranes got stripped. And so I didn't think nothing of it. I'm like, well, either I'm gonna start having contractions soon or it's not gonna work. But I actually had 2 due dates for Shayla, July 11th and July 13th. She was born on July 3rd, the night at 8:26 p.m. May I add, those numbers is my husband's birthday, which is very, very weird. She was 7 pounds, 6 ounces, 20 inches long. She was light as a cloud. My husband, he's white, but she, you know, I already knew she's going to be light anyway because giving what's on my side, because, you know, I have different colors in me as well. So, basically, so then, like I said, July 1st, I was having a bunch of contractions because we had to walk the mall for a couple hours and did some errands. And went to the doctor, got sent home. And then on July 2nd, we did some more walking. And I started having more contractions. A lot more frequently. And I told my husband, I said, they'll go away, you know, they'll go away. And I remember my last picture I took of being pregnant was on June 30th. And on July 3rd, it was a beautiful day. I woke up and I took the dog out for a walk. And I walked maybe, it was like a half a mile. It wasn't a mile. So I walked up there. Sorry, driving. And, let's see. Walked up there and walked back home. I put the baby on board sign in the car, in the window, got back in the house, and I sit down on the bed, and all of a sudden I have this horrible contraction, and then I start feeling wet, and I'm like, maybe I'm sweating. And turned out, I was laying on the bed, I told my husband, I said, hey, I'm wet. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I took my panties off, and I said, it's not stopping. And I said, and he's like, are you peeing? I'm like, no. I said, it's not stopping. And he's like, I think your water broke. I said, no, it didn't break. And the gown that I had on, my water had broke at 10 in the morning. I didn't know. So I hopped in the shower and everything because I wasn't in a big hurry. So I hopped in the shower, and we went to the hospital around 10:40 a.m. Got to the hospital. I ended up having 2 epidurals because the first one wore off completely on my right side, like completely wore off. They didn't know why, so they gave me another dose. So my left side was overly numb, and I had that, what is it called? Pitocin. I think it was Pitocin or something. And, you know, I was like when I got there, I was at like 1.5 centimeters, but my water had broke like really bad. Like it wasn't like a little leak. It was like a big flow. And So with that being said, it was a big flow. Sorry, someone's like driving all weird and crazy around in circles. So it was a big flowing water, like a gush. I didn't really feel, I just felt like I was peeing really bad, that no matter what I did, it didn't stop. So then, with that being said, I got to the hospital, and I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna be admitted. Got admitted, and I was like, oh gosh. So I got admitted. I'm laying in a bed, and I had, for the first time I've ever had an IV, and they stuck it in my left hand, and the lady ended up sticking it into a blood vessel and popping it, so I was bleeding. So she had to take it out and put it in, you know, put it on my right hand. It hurt like a cinema. So then she put it on my right side, and that hurt way more. So then my stepdaughter was there, my husband was there, my mom was there. My mom kept messing with me with my braids. I had just got my hair braided on the 3rd. Like, just barely got my hair braided on the 30th. And now I'm in labor 3 days later. Will you go by? Go. Go. So then 30 days. So on June 30th. Sorry, there's people driving and stuff. So basically, so I'm there, and I'm at the hospital, and I don't like hospitals. I really wanted to go home. I didn't want to have the baby. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to have her and get home, and that's it. So I go there, and then I end up, my labor wasn't really bad. I did 3 practice pushes, and her head was they already saw her head. And then I did 2 more pushes when a doctor came in, and I was really quiet. I wasn't screaming, you know, I was trying to be calm and patient, and I pushed her out. It came out. She was so light, and I didn't really see how big her umbilical cord was, but you know, her lips were red as like bright, like really, really red, and her lips are really, really red, and her lips were really red. And then so we were in a hospital. I breastfed her. She's always been breastfed and formula fed since she's been born, because we ended up finding out she had jaundice. And with that being said, they gave her a bottle after I had breastfed her, because they found out she was jaundice. And I was kind of really upset about that, because I just wanted to breastfeed her. But you know, you got to do what you got to do. So then they did like a hearing test on her. She failed the first one, but because it was like directly after she was like born, so she still probably had all that gunk in her ear. And then she had the next one, and she passed, which was good. But her jaundice was still going high, and they were going to keep her in a hospital and let me go home. And I said, I'm not going anywhere without her. And so the day I was being discharged, I got discharged on the 5th. So I was in there on 4th of July, didn't see any fireworks, all that stuff. So on the 5th, I was discharged at, I think it was like 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock. And we got our results before I was discharged. And her levels had dropped, but we had to take her to the pediatrician the next day to figure out what to do to make sure, you know, to get the jaundice out of her system. So she was able to go home with me. We got home. My husband brought her in the house to meet the dog. The dog was overly excited and he didn't know what to do, so he's running crazy. So basically, like with my childbirth, I went from my water breaking at 10 o'clock in the morning to giving birth at 8:26 p.m. So I was it wasn't too long, but the wait, like I noticed, like before I got the epidural, I started feeling so much of the pain in my hips, because like I told you guys, I was in a car accident a few months before I got pregnant. Shayla, stop. A few months before I got pregnant, so mamas. A few months before I got pregnant, so right after I did my physical therapy, I got pregnant probably in October or end of October. We didn't even know I was pregnant. We didn't find out until November 7th when we came back, because I hadn't got my period like I was supposed to. So basically, you know, my childbirth wasn't that bad. It was just, I hated the epidural. The nurses were very, very annoying. They just kept bugging me like the whole time. And my mom was there with me. My husband couldn't stay with me because he had to go home with my stepdaughter, and they wouldn't allow her to be there. They would only allow one person. So it was either my mom stay there or my husband stay there, but it wouldn't have made sense for him to stay there because of my stepdaughter, because of his daughter. So basically, my childbirth went really, really well. I'm hoping to have one more, hopefully, in the near future. Hopefully, because Shayla's 2 and I don't want to wait too long. But I do have, like I said, I'm in a lot of pain a lot. My body hurts a lot. So hopefully the next one, because I know when I was pregnant with her, she always stayed head down on my bladder. That's where she was. And so the bigger she got, the more I walked like a penguin, and I would have contractions a lot. But I knew, like, if I would have contractions, I'd sit down, and I would have contractions while I was doing haircuts. So I was still full-time until about, I think, 8 months, 7.5 months, because it got too bad. And so I had to start cutting my hours down because I couldn't function, and I was in pain too much, and because I was having contractions too much at work. So hopefully this childbirth video slash my miscarriages, hopefully it hit the tail on the donkey. And I'm dressed like this because I just got out of church. So you guys stay blessed, have an amazing day and night, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.